Welcome in, Whiskey Freaks. It's the Blind Tasting Podcast. I'm John Stark, your host. And today we're going to focus on nothing but bourbony goodness. I'm going to get straight into it today because I got all kinds of things to throw your way. And as always, we might just learn something while we're at it. I'm not sipping on anything today good. I'm sipping on coffee today. Sipping on coffee today. Got a little bit of some allergies going on. I don't know if it's from mowing the yard. I don't know what's going on. I didn't review anything for this episode. There'll be a review coming very soon. But today we're just going to talk about whiskey news, the bourbon whiskey industry, all that kind of good stuff. I've got big news to talk about from Maker's Mark. They've got some big accolades. I want to talk about the most underrated bourbon right now that's out there. And I'm going to tell you what the experts say, and then I'm going to give you my choice. I'm going to talk about Ramus, aka MGP. They just released a special baseball bourbon, and I want to share that with y'all. And I want to tell you a little something about J. Rieger and Company. They just dropped a cool sports-related bottle, and I want to get into that today as well. So here's the deal. A couple of months ago, I reviewed, if you listen, you'll know, I reviewed Maker's Mark Cask Strength here on the podcast. It's that new age-stated version. 7 years, I think mine was 7 years and 2 months, maybe. Well, good news for makers. That new age-stated version of Cask Strength Makers has officially been named the 2026 Straight Bourbon of the Year at the Bourbon Spirits Competition, and it pulled in a massive 96-point double gold score. Well, you know how I feel about all these competitions, but that is good news for makers. I do enjoy makers. Reviewed it quite a few times here on the show, and I've got a bottle I'm going to review sometime soon as well. But this is great news for makers. Now, it's a bourbon that usually sits around $45, and that's pretty impressive in a whiskey world where people will sometimes refinance their house to get something premium, right? The judges here in this case, they praise the bourbon for its quality, its value, and packaging. And that kills me that these competitions would factor packaging into any of it, but they do. That's the three major categories used in this particular competition. They say quality counts the most, but value and presentation matter too. Well, honestly, this is about the best value you can get out there. I mentioned this a year and a half ago when I reviewed the Cask Strength the first time. There is no better value out there than Cask Strength Maker's Mark. So for that, I agree 100% with these guys. They did change the bottle up a little bit. It does look a little bit more premium. So, all right. Fair enough. I can go with that too. Now, of course, Maker's Mark Cask Strength uses the brand's wheated mash bill. It's a 70% corn, 16% soft red wheat, and 14% malted barley. And the batches usually land somewhere between 107 and 114 proof. They typically age this bourbon somewhere between 7 and 8 years. And earlier this year, like I mentioned, they started releasing batch-specific age statements to the label. So y'all can compare releases side by side, which I did. We'll call it scientific research, right? You can do that research in your man caves now, courtesy of Maker's Mark. The tasting notes they mentioned at this competition, not my tasting notes. You can go back and listen to the episode from a few months back to get my tasting notes. Their tasting notes mention baked apple, raisin, honey, toasted oak, vanilla, caramel, toasted nuts, pepper, red jammy fruit. And while that does sound seriously awesome, I'm not sure I got all of those tasting notes. It does make for a pretty amazing flavor if that's what they were getting out of this particular batch. Anyway, I don't know if this would be what I would consider to be the best, but hey, I'm not a supercalifragilistic whiskey taster. So, like I said, I reviewed this Cask Strength Maker's Mark bottle, this very bottle. Could have been a different batch, but it was age stated. It punches way above its price point, and I'm still not completely sure whether I would agree it deserves to be crowned the best straight bourbon of 2026. Now, I got my bottle from Bobby at the bottle shop here in town, and I was able to snag my bottle for $40. And think about that, guys, $40. Or some of you would say doll hairs. But I'm still not sure I'd call it the best. Anyway, if you're curious, and of course you are, jump into the archive for the podcast, listen to my episode, see what I think, let me know what you think. Guys, nothing pleases me more than to get your feedback. Now, what I did, spoiler alert, I compared the new age-stated one against the non-age-stated cask strength from a couple of years ago. And I think that was a pretty good, I think it was a fair comparison. But seriously, give it a listen. Comment. Let me know what you think. I think at any rate here, we got to give a big shout out to Maker's Mark. It's not nothing to win the London Awards, right? So I stumbled across this VinePair article. Sometimes you see that stuff, right? You're scrolling, you're doom scrolling. Is that what the kids call it? And something comes across your screen. I couldn't pass this one up because I like to know what others think, and then I like to know what I think, and I want to see if we can meet in the middle or where we can be. The article was, we asked 15 bartenders, what's the most underrated bourbon here in 2026? And thankfully, I was shocked, actually. Instead of naming a bunch of allocated unicorns or a bunch of hype bottles, these bartenders, and they call them bartenders and beverage pros, they actually pointed to bourbons that actually work in the real world. Bottles that you can find, bottles that hold up in cocktails, that you can pour consistently, and they don't require you to be a hedge fund manager to afford them. Now, sometimes these lists are total crap, and I've called these guys out many times before, not particularly the guys on VinePair, but other lists and pros and experts and people who wear ascots and the whole bit. But VinePair, I think you guys hit the nail on the head here. So the list really leans heavily on familiar names, and I like that because many of these are getting overlooked. And I say that, and so say the good folks at VinePair. The biggest, and probably the loudest voice that was heard about the 15 most underrated bourbons of 2026 is Old Granddad 114. And it got a lot of love from the bartenders and the beverage pros for its high proof, the fact that you can use it for cocktails like the old fashioned. It's got that orange, that cinnamon, that spice, all that good stuff. That was one of the major choices, one of the 15. They also selected Calumet Farm 8-year, and they described it as an honest bourbon with caramel, oak, and stone fruit notes that quietly over-deliver. Now, I've got the Calumet Farm 8-year here in the house. I have not reviewed it. Maybe I should here on the podcast. I agree, and I'm not gonna have a spoiler alert now because one day I may review it. But the 8-year Calumet Farm is, in my opinion, it's underrated, but it's also an understated flavor. It's an understated flavor profile. It is very fruity, which I love that. I call it more like a patio pour, like a outdoor summer patio pour. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Calumet Farm, 8-year. It was one that they mentioned as underrated. The problem with that one is it's sometimes difficult to find. You can't walk into Walmart. You can't walk into even a lot of liquor stores. You can't walk in and find that one. Anyway, Rabbit Hole. That showed up big time from these bartenders who said it's underrated. I think they called out the Derringer, and I've had that before. It's got dried fruit and cherry. Pretty good stuff, but it's very expensive. I'm sure it works well in cocktails, and that's probably one of the reasons why they choose that. But I'm going to be honest, when you walk into a typical bar, now if you go to a bourbon bar, yeah, they're going to have Rabbit Hole. They're going to have many of the selections from Rabbit Hole. But you just walk into random bar, they're not going to have Rabbit Hole. So it's underrated maybe, but it's also under available. So good luck with that. They also mention Ramus Straight Bourbon. They say it's highlighted for tying regional Prohibition era history to a smooth, flavorful pour. Okay, I'm all right. I've had a couple single barrel Ramuses. It's hit or miss, in my opinion. Also, you can't find it everywhere, and it's not in every bar. So good luck with that one. Four Roses, it was on their list. They say it continues its long-running reputation as a bartender favorite across multiple expressions, especially the higher-end small batch select and single barrel. The small batch select is quintessential bourbon. Don't disagree there. Probably, I don't know if it's underrated though, but sometimes you can only find the single barrel or the yellow label at the bar. Anyway, small batch select from Four Roses. Let's see. Elijah Craig small batch gets a lot of credit for its balance and reliability, and I couldn't agree more with that. It's findable, it's affordable. Oh, here's one. Old Forester 1920. They mention it for its rich dessert-like profile of caramel, chocolate, and maple. True. And they put Heaven Hill 7-year bottled in bond on this list. And honestly, this one's more accessible at your regular bar-type place anymore. Back when it was the green label, God, you could buy it for $12. The green label, it was 6 years. I think it was 6 years old in the green bottle. Then they changed it to the bottled in bond rate, doubled the price, tripled the price. Anyway, not mad about that or anything. But you don't have to go to a bourbon bar specifically to find the Heaven Hill 7-year bottled in bond now. It's pretty much available at Walmart. It's available at all of your liquor stores. You can probably find it at Walgreens, right? Anyway, so I think that one stands out for delivering real value, even at its higher price point. It's really a solid whiskey. So I'll agree with that. Some of the other mentions they have include Wild Turkey Rare Breed. They mentioned Wyoming Whiskey Small Batch. Again, you can't find that in just random bar that you walk into. Garrison Brothers Cowboy. Again, you just can't walk into a random bar and find that. Old Forester 1897, definitely. Benchmark Top Floor. And even Jepson's Bourbon. So as far as Benchmark Top Floor is concerned, I think that's an interesting pick to be on this list, because we know we've got Benchmark, you've got the single barrel, you've got the full proof, you've got the Top Floor, you've got the bottled in bond, and then you've got the Benchmark Old Number 8 or whatever they call it. I agree that the Top Floor punches above its weight class, but you can't find it at most bars. You just can't. I mean, it's not. I mean, the good news is it is finally available a lot of places it didn't used to be. It used to be only like Indiana and Kentucky. But it's out there now. I mean, like at the liquor stores. But you're not going to find that at a bar. So to ask the bartenders if they think it's underrated, well, maybe it is underrated, but you can't get it at the bar. So it's usually like, let me think. It's usually between like $17 and $20 for the 750. It's a Buffalo Trace product. I would recommend grabbing it because of that. Because it's a Buffalo Trace product, you might put it up against regular Buffalo Trace. Do a side-by-side. Do a blind with that. Or do a blind with makers. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a fun experiment. And honestly, the Top Floor does hold its own. Now, the common thread across all 15 picks, according to what they're saying, this is what they're saying, not me. Availability, consistency, and performance behind the bar matter more than the hype. And I agree with a lot of that, what they're saying. But as far as availability, I've already explained why a lot of this just simply isn't available at the bar. I think they're missing, in my opinion, a glaring, like loud as hell option that we can all find. And God bless America, we can all afford it. Guys, I had to add my own pick here for the most underrated bourbon behind the bar. In my opinion, it's Wild Turkey 101, and now it's 8 years old. It's not a flashy limited release, and it's not a unicorn bottle, guys. It's just, I think you'd call it a workhorse bourbon. It just does its thing. You can always turn to Wild Turkey 101. Every single time. You get that classic Wild Turkey character. Well, you get the history, first of all, which is fun. Jimmy, Eddie, Bruce, all the guys at Wild Turkey. The caramel, the oak, the baking spice. You got that little bit of citrus peel in there, right? And it's got enough structure that you can sip it neat. You can make cocktails with it. And now, like I said, it's age stated at 8 years. You know how I feel. I don't like the hype. I don't like a lot of the allocation bullshit. And you gotta love that about the Russells and Wild Turkey. It's just good, solid bourbon. All right, whiskey freaks, here's one I couldn't scroll past either. We got another bourbon meets baseball crossover going on here. And it's a super cool one at that, which is why I stopped and read it. And now I'm going to share it with you. It's Ramus Bourbon, basically doing what every bourbon brand eventually does, baseball. Think Field of Dreams. Think Ramus Babe Ruth that they put out, I think, last year. Or even the Cooperstown Distillery releases. Or Heaven Hill. I think Heaven Hill's even done baseball-related releases. Well, Ramus is back at it, and they've released the Lou Gehrig Reserve Bourbon, honoring the Yankees legend known as the Iron Horse. And yes, naturally, this thing is absolutely loaded with all the symbolism. They use 4 mash bills for Gehrig's number 4. It's 109 proof for his 109 RBI season. And they produced 9,665 bottles in honor of his career plate appearances. So it's all the shticky things, guys. They all do that, right? But it's Lou Gehrig. It's cool. Why not? It's got tasting notes of cinnamon and nutmeg and leather and clove, brown sugar, plum, marshmallow, toasted cedar, all the things. And they're also donating money to ALS research, Lou Gehrig's disease, which is obviously a great cause. So credit where credit's due here. And I just got to throw this out there because while Ramus is bottling old school baseball history, I've got some real-time baseball news. The St. Louis Cardinals are actually having a great year, and I am enjoying the hell out of it. And all the tarp off guys, and you have to Google that. Be careful though. I'm loving it. We're having a great season. We weren't predicted to do shit this year. We're 8 games over 500. Stayed up late last night, watched them crush the Pirates with a walk-off in extra innings. It has been great fun this year. And to all you Cubs fans that might be listening to the podcast, I just want to say, suck it. Respectfully. All right, you can pick up Ramus Lou Gehrig Reserve. It's currently rolling out nationwide in select markets right now with an SRP of $129.99, and it's a $7.50. Yay! You can also purchase the release online at reservebar.com. And I checked this out, guys. If you go to reservebar.com, you will actually pay $10 more. You will pay $139, not SRP of $129.99. I checked. You're welcome. So let me get a sip of coffee. Little sidebar here. A story. A life event, if you will. Well, gonna be an event. I've been meaning to get this out, whether it be here or somewhere else. I don't know. Somebody's got to listen to me, right? You're going to get it here today on the pod. I want to talk about something that has absolutely nada to do with bourbon, but somehow managed to stress me out almost as much as lining up at Buffalo Trace for their latest drop. And I think their latest drop was the 4-grain or the 5-grain E.H. Taylor, something. Anyway, I'm not lining up for that. I saw the snakes the other day on the internets. Folks are out of their freaking minds. It's E.H. Taylor, guys. Come on now. Anyway, so I want to talk about the Olympics. Yes, the Olympics. Specifically, trying to get tickets to the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Now, my wife and I have talked about doing this for years, like seriously for years. We were even talking about trying to go to Tokyo back before COVID came and completely screwed everything up back in 2020. So when LA 2028, that's what it's called, LA 28, we thought this is probably going to be our shot. Nobody's getting any younger. Prices aren't getting any lower. And here it is in America, right? We're like, okay, this is good. We can handle much. It's California, but that's still part of America, at least, right? I mean, it's still America. So I'm thinking realistically, when would the Olympics come back to the United States? Probably who knows when, right? Could be 20 years from now. Because 84, I think the Olympics were in Los Angeles last. And here we are umpteen years later. So we treated this whole situation like a major operation. We signed up on the LA 28 list. You had to get on a list, like a list. It was a list, LA 28. And they were going to announce when folks could buy tickets to stuff. And it was all going to drop on one particular day for group 1, and then it to group 2 and group 3. Well, good news. We both got into group 1 when we signed up months ago. So when this thing dropped, when the ticket, you get the email and there's a countdown and the whole bit. So we spent hours before ticket sales even opened up trying to figure out what events we wanted to see, where the venues were, how many days we'd stay, transportation schedule, all of it. Because when you think about Los Angeles, it's not just Los Angeles, it's the region all the way down to San Diego, Long Beach, all over the place where the venues are spread out. And my wife and I, naturally, we had different priorities. Now, we can settle on a lot of things, we can meet in the middle on a lot of things, but I wanted golf. And there's just something about Olympic golf in Southern California. It just sounded incredible to me. My wife wanted gymnastics. That did not sound incredible to me, but it makes total sense because gymnastics is basically one of those sports everybody, if you're a lady, I think, most men I don't think watch gymnastics. Or, you might, maybe you do. Not my biggest thrill, right? But my wife, she couldn't wait for gymnastics. I wanted golf, she wanted gymnastics. So we're trying to compromise. We each generate a list. This is my top 7 things I want to do. This is the days they're on. This is where they're at, the different regions of Southern California, all that stuff. I'm not trying to bore you here. I'm just trying to set the stage. So we're trying to compromise. We're thinking, well, maybe we'll do golf one day, right? Because it's a multi-day event, but you buy daily tickets. We'll just do golf one day. I'm like, that'll work, right? That'll satisfy my need for golf. And maybe we'll do gymnastics one other day, maybe another event after that. And we're trying to build this perfect little Olympic experience without spending all 3 straight weeks in Los Angeles area, sitting in their damn traffic and draining our bank accounts. So the ticket day arrives, and we get online early. We're sitting there, you're sitting you're in the waiting room or whatever, right? Sitting there. And remember, we're selected in the first ticket group, the first group. So naturally, we're thinking, all right, we planned ahead. We did our due diligence. We've done basically everything right here. This should go super smoothly, right? Absolutely not. We finally get through the queue. And it looked like half the Olympics had already disappeared. Gymnastics were gone. Nothing. Golf, remember, this is a multi-day event. Gone. Every ticket, gone. A ton of the major events that they had boasted about and that you could see days before, so we could get excited about it. Gone. And I'm sitting here thinking, wait a second. We're in the first group. Who exactly got access to these tickets before us? It didn't make any sense. Now, there were still plenty of tickets available for things like BMX bicycle racing or skateboarding or water polo or indoor volleyball, which I'm not opposed to indoor volleyball. And to be fair, I could watch some skateboarding, right? And there were a bunch of other events that I really hadn't spent the last decade dreaming about going to. It just wasn't on my bucket list. And I'm not, okay, please don't get me wrong. I'm not disrespecting those sports. Okay, maybe breakdancing. I'm just saying there's a point where you start panic shopping Olympic events. We're like, what would we love to see? Is there anything left on? Because again, I didn't just want to see golf. I wanted to see all kinds of things. We wanted to see track and field. There were many things on our list simply gone. Like beach volleyball, gone. Some of the bike races, cycling, gone. And we're thinking, what can we physically actually get our hands on at this point? So we're frantically, navigating their website and trying to find anything. But honestly, the hardest part wasn't even finding these Olympic events. It was trying to make the schedule work in a way that made any sense. Let me explain what I mean. So they got it spread out all over Southern California. I think I mentioned that. And like one event would be on a Tuesday morning in one zone. They had different zones like Long Beach. Then another would be on a Thursday night somewhere like maybe San Diego, which is a good bit away from Los Angeles. Another event would somehow require a 45-minute drive in normal traffic, and we're talking LA traffic here, during rush hour. So finally, after going back and forth forever and ever, and meanwhile, the clock is ticking, right? And tickets are disappearing. You can see as you refresh the screen, stuff's disappearing. So we started looking at soccer or football or whatever the hell they call it. Now, I'm admittedly not a big football fan. Here in St. Louis, we got a football team a couple of years ago. They're the St. Louis SC Soccer Club, or I don't know what they call themselves. My son's been to some of their games. That's not my generation. Doesn't excite me. I like to go see baseball. I like basketball, football, all those things. But I'm thinking, it's the Olympics. Let's give it a look. We'll do football. And we noticed something interesting. This was good news. Some of the Olympic soccer matches, the Olympics, the actual Olympic matches, weren't even in Los Angeles. They were being played in other cities too. And that's when we saw it. St. Louis. Right across the river from where we live. It's right in our backyard, basically. And suddenly everything changed. We found matches, because that's what they call them. They don't call them games. You get in big trouble if you call them games. And don't call it a field. It's a pitch. Okay, whatever. But the good news was we found seats. And we immediately grabbed up some tickets. So in July of 2028, we are officially going to the Olympics. It's just going to be the Olympics here in St. Louis. And honestly, to me, that's still pretty cool. Because these are actually legit Olympic events. They're first round matches, and our tickets actually get us into 2 games. So it wasn't exactly the Olympic trip we spent years imagining, but I'm glad we at least found a way to be part of it, and for like $5,000 cheaper. So there's that, and my son gets to come into town to go with us, so that's very cool too. So I still got to say the whole process was inefficient. It was rough. It was like stupid. Very difficult to maneuver. That's not just because of my generation here. It's because it could have been done better. And could be this is just me getting older, but I really wish the Olympics had better, like maybe they could do like package options or easier planning systems, like put on by LA28. I'm not talking about third-party companies or anything like that, but I'm talking you should be able to go in, okay, like here you go. Here's a 4-day Olympic experience with good events, reasonable travel, and a schedule that you can keep, even in a busy town like Los Angeles. Because trying to piece this thing together manually was just impossible. And again, I don't understand why the tickets were gone instantly, and we were in Group 1. So it was bizarre. It was disappointing. But like I said, at the end of the day, we are going to the Olympics. Maybe not exactly the way we planned it or the way we pictured it, but after waiting all these years, I'll take it. Oh shit, I almost forgot. I got 2 more bits of whiskey news to mention real quick. I got news from Wild Turkey. They just announced a new ultra premium line, and they're calling it the Austin Nichols Archives Collection. And they're kicking it off with something they're calling the Gold Foil Edition. It's a 16-year-old bourbon, and it's bottled at 120 proof. And this is very special. The release is inspired by the legendary cheesy gold foil. I have no idea what that is, that Wild Turkey bottles used to have on them back in the 80s and 90s. I don't have any old Wild Turkey bottles, and if I did, I probably wouldn't call them cheesy. But you guys, you do you. They say this new series replaces the Master's Keep lineup, which is sad. They're taking that away, and also it marks the first major Wild Turkey collection fully overseen by Bruce Russell, officially continuing the Russell family whiskey dynasty. And if you're sitting there going, who the hell's Bruce Russell? Don't worry. Bruce explains it himself because I looked on his Instagram. Bruce describes himself, and his bio literally says, I am associate master blender at Wild Turkey, 3rd generation whiskey maker. I love whiskey. I love TCGs, roller coasters, and dogs. And TCGs, I looked that up too because, again, my generation, that's like playing Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so the kid, I'll call him a kid because to me he's a kid. Good news, he can blend 16-year-old bourbon and probably still beat your ass at Pokemon. They say Bruce is the grandson of legendary master distiller Jimmy Russell and the son of master distiller Eddie. So this is my opinion here. This is like his first foray, like, hey, everybody, here's my thing at Wild Turkey. So this might end up being kind of the moment where bourbon fans stop seeing him as Jimmy and Eddie's boy or his son and start seeing him as the next major name at the distillery. And hopefully he does a great job, and hopefully he can continue that legacy. It's going to be hard to be in Jimmy and Eddie's shoes, but I'm sure he can do it. Okay, well, I almost forgot this part. Here comes what I would call the painful part. This thing, this Austin Nichols yada yada archives, it launched in May, which is like just a couple days ago, with an SRP of $400. So Bruce's approach to entering the spotlight was, I guess, go big or go home. So $400, $400 hairs, whatever you want to say. Good luck finding it. It's his first foray, so it might be worth looking for to put on your shelf and keep around. I don't know. So I think I've mentioned Jay Rieger and Company here before because we actually stopped by the distillery. They're out in Kansas City a few months ago. I know, and before you yell at me, I still have like 3 bottles from them I need to review. Guys, I swear I'm going to get to them. My need to be reviewed shelf looks like it looks like a line of snakes at Buffalo Trace in the parking lot. I'll get to them, I promise. I'll get there. So Jay Rieger, the Jay Rieger News, they just rolled out a pretty cool special release bottle design. And they're calling it Raise a Cup Edition. This is turning into the soccer or football podcast episode, I think. This Raise a Cup Edition special bottle design is for the World Cup. And it turns out Kansas City is hosting a lot of, several of the teams for this big soccer tournament. And Argentina, Netherlands, Algeria, and Great Britain, they're all going to be using Kansas City as a home base this summer, and they're going to be playing a lot of football out there. So that's good news for these guys if they like barbecue. And if you all make it out there to Kansas City, you got to stop by. I'm going to give you my recommendations for barbecue, because why wouldn't I? You have to, if you have limited amounts of time, in my humble opinion, you got to go to Slap. Yeah, like slap your mama, like slap. That's where you got to go. Not a great part of town. You're going to be like, what the hell am I doing here? And you're going to love their barbecue. And you're going to want to go to Joe's. Joe's is out of an old gas station. I kid you not. Joe's Barbecue. And if you're feeling like you want a little bit of an elevated barbecue experience, you got to stop in at Q39. Q, like the letter, Q39. You're welcome. So Jay Rieger, back to this new bottle design for the World Cup. The bottle features artwork from J.D. Arnett. I have no idea who that is, but they're celebrating the whole event, and the whiskey inside is their Kansas City whiskey. Now, let me tell you a little bit about their Kansas City whiskey. It's got kind of a unique setup, guys. It's a blend of straight bourbon, light corn whiskey, straight rye whiskey, and just a little bit of 15-year-old Oloroso sherry from Spain. They mix it in there just to be different, and I added that last part. And apparently that formula or that blend, it's working for them, because this stuff recently won Best American Whiskey at the Ascot Awards, and it also grabbed gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. So, look, if you're a soccer fan or a whiskey fan or a Kansas City fan or a barbecue fan or just a whiskey freak, this might be one to check out. I've got no review this week. I mentioned that not the sinuses, but the allergies are a little bit screwy. But the good news is I do have an honorable mention for y'all. A few weeks ago, I was out with some friends and we got to try Bernheim Original Wheat Whiskey's 20th Anniversary Edition. And this stuff was ridiculously good. The Original Wheat Whiskey, it's their 20th Anniversary Edition. And we went out to the Rack House. It's a pretty high-end restaurant and a bourbon bar. I think they even have a cigar lounge there. We don't do the cigars, but we did the bourbon. And we were out celebrating a buddy's birthday. This was the featured whiskey of the day. They had just gotten a bottle in, so naturally, I'm going to try it. And it's the Bernheim 10-year wheat whiskey, bottled at 115 proof. And somehow, guys, it still drinks, dare I say, smooth. It was very creamy, and this stuff was, and there were people there that really weren't bourbon drinkers in our group. They thought it was approachable for the proof. This one is built off Bernheim's soft winter wheat recipe, and it's aged in Bardstown, Kentucky. On the nose, I got a ton of cinnamon, guys, baking spice, vanilla, and oak, and the palate brings this terrific sweetness, and my favorite, butterscotch. The butterscotch was my favorite part of this pour, and it's got this warm peppery finish. Maybe that has something to do with the 115 proof. I don't know, but that warm peppery finish, it just hung around in really the best way. I'd call it rich without being heavy. It was sweet without being sappy or syrupy, and the mouthfeel, like I said, it's got a creaminess. It's just killer. So here's my advice about the Bernheim 20th anniversary bottle, 10 years old, 115 proof. If you see this at a bar, you should absolutely, I command you, you get a pour of this whiskey. And if by some miracle you find a bottle sitting at retail around that $85 mark, just buy it. Don't stand there and think about it. Don't ask your wife. Don't, just grab the bottle, casually walk up and buy that damn thing. Guys, I'm going to be dropping a pretty cool episode here in the next couple days featuring some cool cats out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And they've brought back a historic legacy whiskey brand. And you're not going to want to miss this one, guys. Make sure you hit me up on the Facebook and the Instagram. Follow the podcast. And do me a favor, subscribe on a couple platforms if you can. It helps the algorithm, the blessed algorithm. It helps the show to grow. And it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside too. But most importantly, the more followers I get, the less my wife asks questions about where all my money's going. And guys, I don't want to forget about all the folks that make this whiskey thing happen. So I got to give a shout out to the farmers, the distillery production guys and gals, the warehouse workers, the bottlers, and the truck drivers. Y'all are making it happen for all of us. So cheers to all y'all. That's all I got for today, Whiskey Freaks. Thanks for listening to the Blind Tasting Podcast, your number one attitudinal bourbon destination. Cheers!